Ansary here, coming to you late in September 28th, 2016. Recently, we saw the first debates between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Of course, I see it as a waste of time to watch the debates, so I didn't watch them, but because I post a lot of news and I stay up to date with the things that are taking place, I got a feel for how the debates came across to people watching. Specifically, Donald Trump supporters as well as those that were undecided. And the picture that's been made clear to me is that it appears that Donald Trump may have thrown the fight to Hillary Clinton for the first debate because there was a whole slew of things that he could have hit her on regarding the Clinton Foundation, regarding the emails, regarding Benghazi, uh, and other issues. And instead, what we saw was a Donald Trump that wasn't as on the ball as, say, you have Donald Trump, his GOP speech. We're going after the barbarians. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then you see other situations where, it actually reminds me of George W. Bush. It actually reminds me of Obama because these guys, these women, these people, they are all actors. And so there's a time where they turn on the charisma. And there's a time where they turn on the deal. That's all, folks. And I wouldn't even necessarily call it charisma. There was a time where the mainstream media was pushing George W. Bush's war. And then towards the end, I think often about George Bush and how this fits in with all this. Interesting to see him getting a hug from Michelle Obama recently. Yeah, I mean, I haven't even been hugged like that in recent years. So, I mean, it ruffles my feathers to see this open in plain sight. There's Michelle Obama giving this mass murderer a hug. People think still that Obama is on some other side, very different than George W. Bush, even after all these years. And it's in plain sight, and the people just don't get it. They just don't get the acting portion of this guild theater portion of this show. Their job is to absorb the hope, love, admiration, as well as the anger from the population. Oh, it's Bush that did it. It's Obama that did it. Oh, it's Trump that's going to save us. Oh, it's Hillary that's like the ultimate New World Order kingpin. And then you just do a little bit of research and apply a little bit of common sense because Trump is an elite in his own way. You don't get to be in the position of Donald Trump, by being like a 9/11 truther or something like that. And yes, there are some people out there that genuinely believe that about Trump. So I've talked on this channel about the Alex Jones Donald Trump deception. There's a couple podcasts where I talk about it with a friend, Kyle Reardon, for like at least an hour to give you more of a deeper look at that. And as far back as May or June, I called Donald Trump. I called it as far as who I see being the real establishment pick. But I have to be open to the possibility that, in fact, Donald Trump is now throwing the fight to Hillary Clinton, or that's how it seems. Because anyone, in my opinion, with any intelligence, and you see how people talk and debate in other situations, you know what they're capable of. So when they don't bring it to the table, and there were already conspiracy theories, the more popular one, that Trump is not in this to win it, he's in it to throw it to Hillary Clinton. Now, I see a pattern of Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. And I don't see a whole lot of break in that pattern going back multiple decades. So that's one of many reasons why I believe that this is really a bait and switch. They're using reverse psychology to put it out there and make it seem that the establishment hates Trump, but we see Trump saying he's going to make NATO strong. We see military leaders getting behind Donald Trump, and we see how he's demonizing a large majority of Middle Eastern immigrants that have been deliberately, by our own government and others, and I would say including Russia, their governments, their neighborhoods, their countries, destabilized and weakened to the point where they are literally pushed out and they're running for their lives as refugees. So to speak out of your mouth, on one hand, 9/11 conspiracy, I was against the war in 2003, And then to scream, "We are going after the barbarians! We are going after the barbarians" in your GOP speech. Kyle Reardon calls it controlled schizophrenia, which is actually a term that has been written about multiple decades. It's a form of doublethink. So we are living, ladies and gentlemen, in a form of 1984, where we have our 10 minutes of hate, where they see the Middle Eastern face. That's often now being blurred, the lines between Middle Eastern and Muslim, Muslim and Middle Eastern. So they're giving the Europeans and the Americans by design their 10 minutes of hate. And then you have their, oh, it's like the movie, oh, it's our savior. And then Obama comes on the screen. Or for some people, Hillary Clinton. Listen, they have several programs at once. And then, of course, there's some people who think that Gary Johnson is really in it to win it on his end. And he seems highly narcissistic, full of himself. Oh, they're always talking about Gary Johnson. Check the Google search results. Get the fuck out of here. You counterfeit motherfucker. Doesn't know a Syrian city. It's like the whole, what is this, the potato thing? Does potato have an O or an E on it? Like a something back to the days of, was it Dan Quayle, the VP to George Bush? So I don't see, is this really the best that America has? Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. Is this something that Americans are okay with? I think in the end, they're not. But unfortunately, the brainwashing that you have to work within the system and you have to pick between a lesser of all the evils, that overrides their greater knowing that this whole thing is rigged. And they can go to sleep fine with an aspect of them knowing that they're co-signing this bullshit, because they are taught by the system itself. You have always people criticizing the mainstream media, but literally following the mainstream media's talking points, following the YouTube ad suggestions. Oh, Facebook is recruiting you today to make sure you vote, because if you don't vote, you're with the terrorists. And that's the meme they continue to put out and continue to put out. As far as I'm concerned, anyone voting for either Hillary or Trump doesn't care about the millions that have been slaughtered in the Middle East and elsewhere since this so-called war on terror actually began. And we're talking about innocent civilians that aren't even connected to those labeled Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, etc., etc. And again, the origins of all these organizations, very shady. Video was demonetized. Remember Afghanistan on September 11th? I'm talking about the destabilization of Afghanistan. Early on, people don't want to hear it. Well, I'm going to make a film about it at some point anyways. And I'm going to recruit someone that speaks Arabic or Persian to educate the ignorant Middle Eastern immigrants that have come to this country that don't even know their own history, that are sucking the plastic golden cock of what's left of this current monetary system, of the Federal Reserve, of the power of the dollar, coming to America and living a better life. Yes, for now. Because again, this isn't just about Americans or white people, or black people that have just, oh, it's all about Black Lives Matter. Oh, forget about the rest of the world. We have Middle Eastern immigrants suffering from deep, profound states of Stockholm Syndrome that should at the very least be educating Americans as to what's really going on in their country. But no. They are so possessed, you could say, with fear and trauma based on their experiences that they don't do that. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't received enough credit for the bravery that I have to say the things that I have, knowing the risks involved. Let's talk a little bit more about this, another point that I want to make. So when you have Hillary Clinton and you have others that obviously can't be trusted saying that we shouldn't judge all Muslims, when you have situations where Hillary Clinton is given a speech and someone's believed to be the father of a terrorist is actually sitting in the audience, obviously that is being staged. Deliberately. How is that not staged? So you have this, well, these are the people that have sympathy for some Muslims. Hillary Clinton, Bill O'Reilly, other figureheads of the New World Order, but they're not Muslims and they're not sympathizing with Muslims. They are putting on a show. They are not pro-Muslim. They use immigrants to destabilize, to cause a crisis, problem, reaction, solution. That's not the same thing as giving a shit about them. We ought to pray for some of these immigrants. And I would say that people that are calling for their murder, that want to see a genocide just because they're displaced, these people have cursed themselves. No need to even respond to them or recognize their very existence or their comment. They have cursed themselves and those that share space around them. As far as I am concerned, they're bringing danger to themselves by projecting such hateful thoughts without empathy. I will challenge the viewing audience, especially those that are opposed to the very things that I'm saying, especially those that at one point supported Ron Paul, to go back and watch his video, What If? And what if these things were done to the American people? And what if we were occupied by China and Russia, Chinese soldiers in Texas? How would you feel then? How would you respond if people that were resisting were being called terrorists? How would you feel if that situation took place? And I'm doing an extreme paraphrase, and you don't see people share videos from Ron Paul anymore like his what if speech. And I think it was before Congress in 2009, and then someone made a great video that hit YouTube around 2011, 2012. It was Revolution Pack, I believe, or something Pack. And it was really well done. And it really got the point. Now, it didn't really get people thinking, though, wait a minute, what if they have an agenda to occupy our country at some point and use these candidates to destroy as they work together? Clinton and Trump in bed together with Putin filming the gangbang, okay? Of course, Bill and Trump's wife over here on the side doing something else on the couch. Never mind that. And how about Trump's wife? There is something really bizarre going on with all of these individuals. And so what I see them doing, going back to our main point, ping pong ball, back and forth, back and forth. This is candy for the monkeys, that are believing that this is a real debate. So I've seen it go in Trump's favor and Clinton's favor and Trump's favor and Clinton's favor, back and forth throughout the year based on things that they have said and done. They say certain things to draw the people to them, and they do something else that repels an aspect of the population away from them, or they frighten an aspect of the population. Hillary Clinton has insulted many Americans that, for example, question the official 9/11 conspiracy theory or theory, and she's associated that with Alex Jones, which was sick and demented, saying that people that question things like that have a black heart. And then we see Donald Trump and the call for racial profiling and the end of the Fourth Amendment with stop and frisk, banning immigration from countries that the U.S. sabotaged, like Afghanistan years ago, and Pakistan, where the CIA set up their ISI, which funded the Taliban, and they developed a foothold and control over the Afghan people prior to 9/11, and boom, they used the Taliban to invade Afghanistan. And these things are not being addressed by Alex Jones, by Donald Trump, by Red Ice Creations, by other people in the alternative media that are on the Trump train. And their minds are fucked to the point of no recall. Time will tell. And we'll see if there'll be a bounce back, a psychological recovery from their mind fuck state. We just don't know. But going back to the concept that these debates are staged, from earpieces to cords in the back, this has been going on election after selection after selection after election. And there is something happening within human consciousness, the mass of it, that is unable to see the obvious in the continuation. And that is frightening. I think you should take notes. I think you should take very good notes, careful notes. I think you should tap into your own gnosis, your own truth, your own spiritual understanding, if you will, of what's really going on. How can so many be so easily deceived? Why are we here? Now, we'll return to some of those larger questions in another video. But without a doubt, folks, and there's nothing that could convince me at this point except actual evidence, real debates, real issues. There's nothing that could convince me that this is an actual debate. And other people see this too, even people that weren't even of this position last week. They're looking at the debate. Some of them are pro-Trump, or they're undecided, and they've heard some of what Trump has proposed and they support it. And so they're watching the debates. Again, these poor people. These poor people that are actually looking toward the TV as some sort of informer or educator to give them some sort of clues as to what's really going on. They're not talking about poverty, they're talking about race, foreign policy, got to go after the barbarians, domestic police state, anti-gun, pro-police. It just goes on and on and on. But they have these issues like BLM that they throw in that have, by design, divided the country because there are arguments on both sides that are valid. There's an argument that I support that you don't have the right to tell me where I can drive or where I can't drive. Why are you taking over the street? Why are you acting like a mob that cannot, have a rational conversation? Living in Portland for so many years, there are people that really just don't give a fuck, and they go to some of those events for the thrill of causing a disturbance. And then you have the other side of the argument, the reality that there are racially motivated attacks, but the reality is it's happening across the board to every perceivable group. And I would say more some groups than others. But I keep coming down to this fact that an Afghan Lives hashtag doesn't exist. And people don't want me to bring up Afghans because they still have this tarnished reputation from the infiltration of the West. And few people want to go back and see what Afghanistan was like in the 1960s and 70s when women were going to school during the period in which my father left Afghanistan to come to America for his own reasons to pursue education, learn multiple languages, blah, 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 blah. My father's family, like many other Middle Eastern immigrants, I call them the children of Afghanistan that forgot. And of course, there's children of other Middle Eastern countries that forgot, that came to this country and love this country so much in a way to where they are literally it's like the opposite of the stereotype, which is really sad, of what people receive concerning immigrants from some of those countries. When you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have translators, you have people that will literally get down, and I don't want to be too graphic, but clean off the lower areas of the New World Order's stuff because they're glad that they are no longer feeling that they are in danger. And I want people to understand this is what happens to the human species when it undergoes such extreme traumatic events like war and invasion. They become different people. The Stockholm Syndrome takes a hold of them. And I'm articulating to you that it's happening to multiple races throughout the planet and multiple groups within this country. So you have a Stockholm version of control. It's happening to the American people. They should know better. The elections are staged. Elections are rigged. You don't get to be in that position unless you're selected to even run and get on the stage. That's a national security threat for them to have wild cards and mavericks randomly on the stage. They don't do that. That is not allowed. And Donald Trump, by the way, fits the personality type of someone that would be involved at the higher levels. And then, of course, you have the Stockholm Syndrome, which I just mentioned, of Middle Eastern countries or Middle Eastern immigrants that are not of the stereotype that you have been fed, that will actually, in reality, pick up the guns in many cases and go after whoever this military or federal government says to go after. So think about that. Chew on that if your imagination will allow it. All of these servants of the New World Order that are Middle Eastern in nature that falsely believe that they're going to be fine throughout all this because they love this system and they're serving this system and they're getting down on it and they're cleaning it good and they're translating, they're helping the occupation just like the Indians that helped the U.S. military when they were conquering the West here in the United States and moving the Native Americans onto the reservation. You want to act like that's not what this parallels? That is what this parallels. And I'll even go further. And whether or not you even believe that what happened in the official story of Nazi Germany is true or not, doesn't matter. Whatever is believed to have happened, I believe we've already exceeded that in Afghanistan and Iraq. You're talking about what? I'm sorry, what? Inflated numbers that you think for Nazi Germany? And then when we look at Afghanistan and Iraq, they're not counting the bodies. They admit that they didn't start counting the bodies until 2009. And you know they're only going to count some of the bodies. So there's an untold number of dead human beings in these countries. Not to mention the torture that they've undergone, emotional and physical, and the white phosphorus coming down, the very thing that burns the skin. So I'm going to wrap up this video. As far as I'm concerned, whether Clinton or Trump wins, the path to World War III will continue. If there ever is some sort of Trump apocalypse, where there's a roundup, for example, of Middle Eastern immigrants, this very well could be the pretext that gives China and Russia the okay from the world to go in and save them. Of course, they won't really go in and save them. They're really be coming into the United States for their own agenda, for their own prisoners, as far as I'm concerned. So there's a reason why Putin likes Trump. And I talked about it on this channel before other people have actually go, wait a minute, what if Putin likes Trump? Because he knows Trump's going to fuck shit up, and it's going to, in the end, help Russia. In the end, China and Russia are set to advance because all the stuff is in place, and their quest to colonize Mars, to have a base on the moon, for example, by 2020. And of course, we have all this news with SpaceX. Elon Musk plans to colonize Mars. It's a separate topic for another time. I'm going to get to that shortly. But the things that are happening now are there by design to destabilize. While China and Russia have a strategic geopolitical advantage with a Mars base and or a moon base and off-world bases, they have the key to space supremacy. Okay, you've heard the term racial supremacy or white supremacy. Okay. Can you grasp space supremacy? Most of you can, and most of you will. So whether Clinton or Trump wins, in the end, it's already set for China to lead the New World Order by the 2020s. And I actually had a dream once that they announced it in 2021. And both Clinton and Trump can easily be seen as assets to the Eastern-led New World Order. Most of you already know how that can happen under Clinton. It's just that most people haven't really actually considered how that could be the plan under Trump if he's selected. And if they look between the lines and they see the flip-flopping, oh, he good relations with Russia. Oh, another headline, maybe might need to shoot down those Russian jets. Oh, 1 month Trump is saying, I'm against NATO, and you might have to pay your, and the next day, we're going to strengthen NATO in Poland. Don't y'all worry about that. Trump, we're going to make a deal. We're all going to get along. We're going to renegotiate with China, and they're going to like it. Oh, Alex Jones, yes, let's look at the 9/11 investigation. Oh, GOP, we're going after the barbarians. So, which will be the New World Order selection? We got just over a month. And then at that point, that selection will go on to do their job. Clinton or Trump will go on to absorb the hopes, the fears, the anger, the love, and more from the people of the world all at the same time, when in reality something else is pulling the strings. And it's taking us somewhere. And it's taking us somewhere fast. I'm Alex Ansary. It is September 28th, 2016, coming to you from Southwest Colorado. We'll be back with more. Website is alexansary.tv.